good morning, everyone. Want to welcome you to our call to action phone call, or Zoom, I should say. And I take it that we all weathered that winter storm. I had challenges. If you tried to get on last week and you didn't find us, it was because I had had an email sent out to say that we were not having the call. I apologize if you didn't get that, but I thank you for trying to get on and for your dedication to being a part of the whole, of this group. So I am, our guest speaker, Dave Bossy, from last week has now been moved to March 12th. So he is still going to come and give us a briefing on HR1. And I don't know if you have seen him or heard of him on television. He's a great speaker. He's funny. He's a good guy. You'll really enjoy having him part of our team and making us aware and what is the nitty gritty behind HR1, which is just really incredible how they're trying to move fast on that, federalizing our elections. I want you to know, I did my homework. One of the things that I requested the last time we met is that I asked if you guys would bring on 1 or 2 or 3 people onto the call and start sharing this information. Well, yesterday I went to, I was in San Angelo, Tom Green County, and I actually am welcoming a number of people this morning that I just talked to one just a few moments ago. I think it was Ginger. And I just want to welcome all of you that were at the meeting yesterday. And it was a fabulous meeting. And I thank you for signing up. And I hope we have you join us every Friday morning that we meet. So that I did my homework. Now I'm hoping that some of you did yours, or you're encouraging people to get up at 7 a.m. And I told them yesterday they didn't have to put their video on. They could just have their cup of coffee, and that they could just come on and listen and be a part of our group. So with all that being said, I am still looking for, is Representative Click on the call? Do I see her? Has she not gotten on yet this morning? Well, if she has, because she does, I want her, of course, to do her briefing of what's going on in the at the House, well, at the Capitol, and how they might have weathered, like all of us, last week. It was pretty challenging. I hope most of you have your water, have electricity. I do hope that you are staying warm. And it was a pretty much a challenge on there. Hey, I see Tom Nobles. Thanks for coming on, Tom, and sharing. I got your email and didn't get to respond back. And I want to thank you for sharing the information. So thank you so much for that. Okay, well, you know what, Bisa, I still don't see Representative Click on yet. I know she'll get on. So you know what, I think we're going to go right ahead and start in, let me go here. Hold on just a minute. Here we go. I am going to start with you. Okay, share. Let's see if I can get this right. There we go. And we are going to go with this from the beginning. How's that, Bisa?
Looks great, Tony Ann. As
Thank
usual,
you. Well,
you're doing a great job.
I'm still learning. Bisa, let me just tell you all a little bit about Bisa Martin. First of all, she's a very, very dear friend of mine. She is one of the original, I think there are 5 of us that got together. Well, they started out with 4, then we added Representative Click, or Chairman Click, and we created this. But Bisa and I have been working together on many different projects. And she lives in Bernie also, so we get to run into each other all the time here, or we talk on the phone, and the next thing we know, we're doing something that we're creating a new action item to be able to get people involved. And as you can see what she has up here, she's very informative. She's very knowledgeable about the Electoral College. She and I have done a number of presentations. Actually, we have gone on radio shows to educate people about the Electoral College. It's pretty amazing, this information. And this all came about because of one of our listeners, Kathleen. Oh my gosh, I can't think of your last name. I meant to have it up. She sent us the bills that were filed. And as one of person, Sean, who's on the call, said, oh, well, I talked to representative, it's dead in the water in Texas. But that's not the point. Maybe it is, but we've got to be aware of it. So Bisa, I'm going to turn this over to you to talk about, to give us, educate us on the Electoral College and to be aware, because it's really eye-opening. So Bisa, I'm turning it over to you.
Thanks, Tony Ann, and thanks to everybody that's joining the call and that wants to be active in election integrity. And this is one of the items that we have to continually be vigilant about. So I know all the participants on the call this morning are aware of that's how we elected the president, through the Electoral College. Can you go to the next slide, Tony Ann? So really, to change the Electoral College, there's two options: amend the United States Constitution, and option two is have the states choose their electors by the national popular vote. I hear a lot of times, oh, this will never happen, this will never happen. But we have seen a very well-organized, very well-financed group be able to actually get in there and make significant headway to getting states to allow this to happen. Next slide, please, Tony Ann. So as everyone knows, the Constitution gives the states how they're going to control the electors. And each state chooses those based on Article 2, Section 1. Oftentimes I hear from people that the question comes up, well, there's no way that the states can unilaterally change the way the electors are chosen. Well, they're not really changing how they are allowed to do it in the Constitution. I would say that, in effect, the states are choosing how to select their electors, which is outside the control of the federal government. So whenever we rely on challenges, constitutional challenges, I really think the best cause of action would be to look not at a constitutional challenge, but control the state and how the state is selecting the electors. Next slide, please, Ms. Tony Ann. So what is this? Well, it's the national popular vote, and it's an interstate compact. So they have gone through, and state by state, they have persuaded these legislators to pass laws within their state. And the states agree that they were going to select their electors just based on the national vote. And once there's enough, once there is a 270 electors among the states, that's when it's triggered. So this is already a law that's in 16 different states. And they are very, as you can see, this would basically destroy our state's influence. It wouldn't matter who Texas voted for. It wouldn't matter who the majority of Texas would vote for, because it would be the national vote that decided who our electors voted for. So basically, they're taking the national vote and creating a state vote through it. Next slide, please. And you say that, maybe next slide, Tony Ann. All right, I get it all the time. Can this really happen? We have 16 states that have passed this law. We have had, it's 196 electoral votes. 72% of the electoral votes needed are already in their hands. And I hear all the time, well, again, the constitutional argument, the framers of the Constitution did not want the national vote to determine the president. That's true. But I would offer that the framers of the Constitution never dreamed that the state citizens would give away their power. They couldn't fathom that the states would actually take away the power that they had and give it to the majority. Next slide, please. So what's the big concern to me? These are the electoral votes and when it became law. This started in Maryland in 2007. If you'll look in 2019, look how many states: Colorado, Delaware, New Mexico, Oregon. This is 24 states. 24 electoral votes. These 24 electoral votes are very significant. And in Colorado, there was a backlash from some of the conservatives, and they tried to take this off the table in the 2020 election, and they were defeated. So the citizens of Colorado agreed that it didn't matter how Colorado voted, that they would go ahead and go with the national popular vote. So you see the total electoral votes is 196. Now, it's been said that the electoral votes, they are determined by the number of representatives that we send to Congress. So Texas is probably going to pick up, the estimate is right now, we're going to pick up 3 congressional seats. And there's several other states that are going to lose. Thank goodness California is going to lose some. But there's other states that are in this area they have already passed this vote that are going to gain representatives. So the total electoral vote is going to shift under the national popular vote from 196 to probably 193. And I believe that this is just going to make Texas a bigger target, because they're going to want our votes, our electoral votes, because Texas and Florida are the 2 big ones. Okay, next slide, Tony. So if you look at the United States popular vote and the margin of victory, about 7 million votes that Biden had, if you look the margin of victory in California, which was 5.1 million people, and New York was almost 2 million people. So just with the margin of victory in those 2 states, that is how Biden won the popular vote. If you take that margin of victory out, in the other 48 states and the District of Columbia, Trump beat Biden by 36,000 votes. So basically, California and New York would be making the decision of who our president would be. And it's just, this is an educational point that I think is not being understood by the people that are voting for this national popular vote. Next slide. So what do we got going on in Texas right now? So we have Senate Bill 130, and Senator Nathan Johnson is the author on that bill. He's a Democrat out of Dallas, and he defeated Senator Huffines in 2018. He won by 24,000, little over 24,000 votes. So if you look at, because of the way the Texas legislature online does the district information, you can tell the upper ballot who won. Governor Abbott actually won that district. He didn't receive as many votes as Senator Nathan Johnson, but he did win that. And so anyone that's up there in Dallas, you look and see what y'all can do to increase the Republican vote in that district. because we need to take that Senate seat back. And with 24,000 votes and the size of that district, I think we could. Of course, it's going to be redistricted this time, but you can go online, the TLO, and you can look in the different precincts and see where you can increase that. In the House Bill 1425, that's Representative Vicki Godwin, and she is more vulnerable. She's a Democrat in South Austin, and in 2020, she did defeat our Republican candidate, and she initially won it in 2018. This last time, she only won it by 1,342 votes. So anyone that we have in Austin that could potentially mount a challenge to her, that would be a really good thing. I just think that the senators and representatives that are putting forth these type of bills to basically mute Texas's voice in the presidential elections, I think that we need to challenge them. And I think that we need to make sure that we make every effort to put our Republican representatives in there that speak for Texas and don't speak for the nation. Next slide, Tonya. So what is the problem? I heard someone say, that their daughter now, she's been a teacher and she really, she's being persuaded. These large, as I heard someone else, the large metropolitan cities are going to control all the elections. And it's, as we see in many of the topics now in the national level, there's no compromise. There's only one view and one vote. And so the national policy just benefits these high density population areas, which receive significant federal funding. And the small states, like, I can't believe New Mexico, Colorado, there's no reason for the presidents to have any interest in making them happy. All they need to do is make the higher population areas better in a better position. I also think that this opens the door to election challenges. I think we saw this last time. Now, the Supreme Court did not take it up, but I think if in fact that it was a Republican that won the national popular vote and it was a Democrat that had not, then they would have allowed many of those challenges to go forward. And James Madison, he was very insistent that whenever you get 50% of the country controlling it, this is actually a tyranny. And that this tyranny of the majority is not good for freedom, because as I said, it's only one view that counts and one vote. Next slide, please, Tony. So who's bankrolling the national popular vote? I thought this was very interesting, and I did source it. So there's John Koza from California. He invented the scratch-off lottery ticket. And by 2014, he had put $14 million into this effort. Of course, he's from California, right? What is one of the states that's going to determine who our president is? California. And then the other gentleman, Tom Gosliano, I'm sure there's somebody out there who can pronounce it better than I can. And he's from New York, and he founded Paycheck. So he put $10 million into it. Again, what's one of the states that's going to control who the president is under this? New York. Then you also have the Jennifer and Jonathan Soros Foundation and the Steven Silberstein Foundation. And these are all very liberal individuals and it's the liberal elite that believe that they know better than the ordinary citizens.
Bisa, excuse me, could you tell me how much funding do the Republicans have on this issue?
And yeah, the Republicans, so we do, all the groups work on this, but we have, we don't spend any kind of money close to what they're spending for.
But we do have volunteers, and that's
Yes.
big.
And I think that our volunteers are stronger if we get out in force.
That's right.
So what can we do?
Oh, wait. Is that what you want?
Oh, sorry. So these are other talking points. So whenever you do have the Electoral College, and the framers were very wise in this, you elect a president that has to get a more broad base of citizen inclusion. Whenever each individual state's votes are important, we do have to look at what are the concerns of Minnesota? What are the concerns of Colorado? What are the concerns of New Mexico? So this gives us a broader base of inclusion. And then the presidents and the candidates also have to provide more states with participation in electing. So they're going to go to other states. If this national popular vote goes into effect, they're going to go to Miami, Houston, Los Angeles, and all the big New York. That's who they're going to be concerned about. So with the electoral vote, there's more compromise on the policies, and that's what we need. And that's what the framers intended, that we would compromise on the policies and not one side would win on every single issue. So now we go to what can we do about this? So your groups and organizations, whether it's the counties, the women's groups, the men's groups, the Republican Party, pass resolutions supporting electors. And you have to educate your legislators and everyone. I think we heard, it has no chance of passing. We've seen in other states that there has been, without the education, initially the Republicans come on board because it is popular. And so instead of being educated about why this is bad, they're not educated. So get out there and talk to your friends, your representatives, talk about it on social media. And whenever we have one of these bills come up, if we do in Texas, which hopefully we won't, hopefully it won't get a hearing, we need to file supporting the Electoral College. And the reasons that are previously discussed are good reasons. And then if you can, submit letters to the newspapers. Post it on Facebook. Hopefully you don't get locked out, but if you do, at least people know how you feel. So these are some of the things that you can do. And going back to why is the Electoral College good? Tony Ann? So we have more citizens involved. The presidential candidates are going to listen to a larger group of voters, and it balances the rights of the citizens. So thank you for all of your work as volunteers. Thank you for caring about our nation and our state. And I hope maybe this has given you some additional talking points and some facts and numbers that you can talk about with your friends, families, and your representatives.
Bisa, outstanding job. And I see that there's a lot that's been coming in through chat. And I want us to open it up to the floor, but Representative Click or Chairman Click had a little bit of trouble. It's a love-hate relationship with technology. And she has joined us. So Karen, before we get into these questions and opening it up to the floor, I'm going to turn it over to Representative Click, but hold on just a second, Chairman Click. I don't know what your name is, Chairman Click, Representative. Anyway, Stephanie, I just think this is so important, and and it's so surprising that I have friends, Republicans, that go, oh, well, this isn't so bad. I said, you've got to be kidding. This is one of my passions. And that's why Bisa and I are willing to, we go around the United States talking about this, educating people about it, because I don't think they realize that this could happen. And so that was good news to hear, though, that with the redistricting, that they'll lose 3 instead of, so I like that. That was good to hear. I didn't even think of that, Visa. Okay, Chairman Click, are you there? Are you still on? Because she and I
Yes.
were communicating.
She's
Yes,
on.
I am.
Okay,
Good morning, everyone.
good morning.
Tony Ann has asked me to kind of update you on the activities of the House this week. On Tuesday, we found out which days the committees would be meeting and whether it's a morning or an afternoon meeting. And our clerks have been busy going through training due to some of the pandemic rules. We're going to be using technology in new ways in our committee hearings. As I mentioned in some of our prior calls, citizens can now submit written testimony via a portal on a particular bill. So they have been testing those systems and being trained on how to properly operate that, as well as when we have remote testimony for invited presenters for committee, learning how to do that. There may be a need for some of the members of the committee to participate from in a hearing from their office and how to finagle all the technology. All of that's new this particular session due to the pandemic. So next week, you're going to start seeing committee hearings. Most of the time, the first meeting is an organizational meeting where you're hearing from agencies. We don't, bills started getting referred yesterday. And so you've got to have bills in committee before you could start hearing bills. But I suspect, the following week, you're going to be full steam ahead hearing bills and receiving testimony. So it's really been busy at the Capitol. And, especially with all the ERCOT issues, long hearings yesterday on those issues. So we are going full bore right now.
Well, thank you, Chairman. That is truly good information. And to keep us abreast of what is going on is so important. And so what we're going to do now, but before I turn it over to you, Karen, because I do see a couple questions did come in, I just want to point out that we have Steve Munisteri on the phone that this time of the day he doesn't normally see because he works like all night, but he got up to be a part of the call. So thank you, Steve. I appreciate you being here, and we always appreciate everything that you do for our state. So anyway, welcome. Okay, so Karen, what do you have there?
All right, the first question that was asked was, has anyone filed a bill supporting the Electoral College, the opposite of the bills listed that we can support in the 87th session?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'll have to look at that and pull it up. Maybe Stephanie knows. I don't know.
I'm not sure if there has been. What people are trying to do is change the law for the Electoral College rather than keeping it the way that it is.
So I guess the question would be to continue on that. Is it wise to have a bill that supports it, or do we do like what Visa suggested, have people across the state have some type of a support from their groups, resolutions, or so? What's your suggestion on that, Stephanie?
I would say that it would be great for them to affirmatively send letters, emails that they support the current system of how we choose electors in the Electoral College. They don't want to change it. They would put Texas at a disadvantage.
Okay, that's good. That's under our homework. I'm writing it down. And who would they send it to? Would they send it to their elected official in their district, and also maybe send it to our email address so we can put it into the document that is sent forward each week to our to Chairman Kane?
I would, you know, certainly talk to or send an email to their own elected officials, but I would also send it to the members of the elections committee.
Okay, good idea. Okay, we can do that. Super.
All
Okay.
right, the next question asked was, what do you think, I think this was sent to Bisa, what do you think about having Texas award electoral college votes the way Maine and Nebraska do, which is not winner takes all, but allocated by who wins each congressional district?
From a personal standpoint, I think that the statewide vote is significant, and I do that would be my preference. Of course, you know, that would be something that would have to be debated within our elected officials. But I think if you have a state that is voting to support one presidential candidate, that it would be best for them, you know, to send all those electoral votes through that. And one of the problems that I see with doing that is then if you have it by congressional district, any contest within that congressional district is going to delay the certification of the rolls, I think.
So I think that's an excellent point. Steve, do you have a comment on that? Because you did a lot of work on that, on redistricting.
Yes, and also on the, you may or may not know this, but I was one of two people for the RNC that was in charge of the Electoral College oversight for the 2016 election. So I don't think that's a good idea, and I'll tell you why. Let's just say we win roughly 2/3 of the congressional districts. If you did it based on a complete 2/3 breakdown, and you have 38 electoral votes, then we would roughly have a net 13 vote margin that we were contributing to the Republican candidate. Right now, we contribute a net 38 vote margin. So it diminishes the impact of Texas for a particular candidate by 2/3. So rather than being a state that's looked at as a state with 38 electoral votes, you're going to be looked at as a state with basically 13 electoral votes, and you're going to get the same type of attention for a state that's not as important.
Yeah, and Steve, I did mean to say electoral college instead. I know you had involved with redistricting, but electoral college, because I did know you did a lot of work on that for the RNC back in 16. So thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Okay, go ahead, Karen.
The next question is for Representative Click. Is there a separate portal for each committee that you were speaking about submitting testimony?
Yes, there is a separate portal for each committee. And, you know, they will generally open on the day that the bill is being heard in committee. And the portal may close, you know, at the end of that hearing.
So do you think maybe like if they have a resolution that they want to submit, would there would be an email address for that committee, and they could go on to the TLO and do it that way, besides getting it to their elected official?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Karen.
All right, and someone asked, what about a joint resolution supporting the Electoral College? Has there been any such things submitted or considered?
Not that I'm aware of. You know, bill filing continues until March 12th. So it's possible that it's in the works, but I've not seen one yet.
Okay, and SREC Nobis put in the comments that the bills have not been assigned to, or the bills have not been assigned yet, but they are now being assigned in batches of 500. So on Monday or Tuesday, the bills referenced will probably be assigned. And usually they are assigned to committees, like they're typically not failed to be assigned at least to a committee. That's not where bills get killed. And Denise asked, can we get the slideshow Bisa put together to share with groups and clubs?
I think that would be a great idea. I think we can we post it, Tony Ann?
Sure, we can put it on my website.
And then
Well,
y'all can just download it and use it.
All right. And one person said, we need a Texas electoral college too, so the large population areas aren't choosing our state leaders. Our rural counties deserve equal representation. So what would that look like, having an electoral college for Texas?
That's a little above my pay grade. I'm not sure exactly how that would be done. That might take a little brainstorming. Probably Stephen Munisteri can figure it out.
Yeah, throw it on Steve.
Well, so first, we actually have kind of a Texas Electoral College, not for state officials, but when we meet, when we have all our electors meet, there's actually an Electoral College delegation from the state that elects a chairman. The Electoral College, if you try to do a system, for example, like U.S. For the United States Senate, that's already been determined by amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So, for example, you couldn't pick your U.S. senators by an electoral college. We used to have that system basically in the United States. You used to pick your United States senators by your state legislators, so that's kind of the equivalent of having electoral college. So, but I would just put this thought in people's minds. It would be like the equivalent of having the legislature pick your candidates like they did for the U.S. Senate in the past. Do you really want the legislature to pick who your governor and lieutenant governor are? Because a lot of people in the past haven't liked who they picked as speaker. So I point that out.
Okay, the next question is, what about those of us who have Vicki Goodwin as their representative? The representative's office doesn't want to take the remarks of anyone who is not a voter in their district. It is sad to think that the Republicans only want to hear from their own voters, not those across the state.
You know what? I would empower everybody that is in her district to get out and join your school PTO, go to the library, join your school library. I would take this as a grassroots motivation to get her out. She only won that district by 1,300 votes. So, you know, if we had 100 people out there and they got 13 votes each, you know, you could make some headway. And as with anything, the more you talk about what the problem is in your district and speak to your neighbors and get out, the grassroots can make a huge difference. You know, we did have that seat until 2018. So I would focus on trying to get her out.
And the next question is, how can we share a recording of this meeting?
That also will be posted on the website. And as we did the last one with Chairman Kane, that was also, and so it is being recorded. And when we get it, it will go on to my website, Tony Ann DeShiel. You know, you see my name there, .com, and you'll see the election reform.
Okay. Can we possibly get a list of the bills with the portal link to weigh in included on those bills that we need to lobby the representatives and senators either for or against?
Representative Click, Chairman Click, do you want to comment? Oh, she went quiet on me. You know what we're going to do, what we will be at, in fact, that's going to be part of your homework, is to see the bills. You'll see the questions that we have here. Right now, not all the bills have been filed. As you heard, they go until March. And sometimes they get consolidated. So, and there will be points to where we're going to have other representatives on. We'll have also Dion from RPT, SREC come on. So there's going to be different groups. that are going to lobby with us here, and as it gets going. Right now, it's all being massaged, and what committee is it going to, and how are they going to take a number of bills that are very similar and consolidate them. So that's going to happen, but you will see what we're going to do is the questions, how you're going to be able to track it also.
Yeah, and I think too, part of the committee purpose and what we intend on looking at too is when those bills are set for hearing, we can send out a little email and let you know what bills are set for hearing, because that's whenever it becomes really critical, when they're set, and we can send in testimony, and we can make the representatives know how we feel about it.
Good point. Yes.
All right. The next question was, does Steve Ministeri have comments on the redistricting hearings going on currently, and any suggestions for us for grassroots action?
Yes, so unfortunately, I was a defendant in multiple redistricting suits last time when I was state party chairman, because that was the last time it was done in 2010. And one of the things that became apparent is that, the Democrats like to seize on the record. So if you have one side at the hearing and the only testimony that's officially on the record are from Democrats talking about a district should be this way or that way, and there are no Republicans there, it gives the Democrats one more tool in their tool chest to argue. So it's very, very important to get participation. And I'm just going to be frank with everybody. It was really hard to get people last time to show up to go to these hearings. But we saw the result of the Democrat efforts. And I'll just have a reminder that the courts really took control last time, and we had to have 3 different primary dates, which disrupted our state convention and everything else. It was a real mess, and it also cost the party a lot of time and money. And let me just point out, I think Eric Opiella I saw his name on this chat. He was instrumental in donating literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of free legal time. Otherwise, the state party, all that progress we had made on finances would have gone out the window. But it is absolutely critical that people pay attention and turn out. The current kind of word on the street, y'all probably already know this, is that, it looks like we're going to have about 3 more congressmen. Last time they told us we were going to have 2 to 3, and we ended up with 4. So you never know exactly how many are going to go. And then my final point, and this ties back to Tony Ann's topic to start with, just a reminder, if we get 3 more congressmen, that means we no longer have 38 electoral votes. We have 41 electoral votes. So Texas influence gets bigger and bigger. So this is why all this is just so critical.
Thank you, Stephen. To also let you know, there are talking points. Again, it's on my website and it says redistricting. And then I also saw that TFRW has doing a massive rollout to help on redistricting and the importance of speaking. Now you don't have to go to a place. You can do it on Zoom, and you can watch it and see what people are saying. And then you'll realize, oh, well, I've got all these points. They only give you 3 minutes. You have it laid out, and it can work. And it gives you confidence to see what other people are doing and going, oh, if they can do that, I can do it also. And you can read it if you have to. And if you want someone to review it, just ask some of us and we can help you with that. But we have some talking points on my website. TFRW has it, and more will be coming. I was on a Zoom with the RNC and working with them, and they're coming out with more. So we should be able to have more information rolling out. We'll probably do one of our calls dedicated to redistricting and testifying too. So thank you.
And Steve, give some credit to
Sarah.
Donna Davidson as well. She's on the call. She sat chair to chair with me over in San Antonio at those hearings. I know you didn't intend to leave her out.
No, well, Donna was not only helpful in redistricting, but also with our petition oversight, which if you don't do that right, you get lawsuits. So she was somebody that we relied on. Uh, so both of that, but we had a great team. And just another quick shout out. A lot of people don't know this. Stan Stanhart was the only countywide elected official that we could talk into coming to San Antonio to help support the Republican position. And so that's another untold story um, that we got help from. And because too many people just either were unaware of the process or ignored it or didn't think it was important. So, that's why it's so important to participate.
Yeah, no, Steve is absolutely right. And we need to prepare right now for a delayed primary in 2022. The Biden administration announced that now it's going to be October before they get the redistricting data to the states. The reapportionment data should be out on April 30th. That's the allocation of the number of seats per state, but the actual data used to draw maps won't be to the states until what looks like now October. It is an inevitability, I would say at this point, that we would have a May, July primary, and that's going to be cutting it close as well because of the fact that a lot of people don't realize that once the state draws the lines, then all of your counties have to allocate their voting tabulation districts or their precincts on the basis of those state lines. And that just doesn't happen overnight, guys. And so it is incredibly important that we think about some concepts, though, that we've had. I know that you have great talking points, Tony Ann. I know some people mentioned some other ones in the chat, but as a broad scope, what we've seen in this state over the last 10 years is the increasing urbanization of the state and the polarization of the vote between the urban Democratic centers of the state, which constitute more than half of the votes in the state now, okay? More than half of the votes in the state are in 7 counties out of the 254. And so while this is what ends up happening is you have a concentration of these districts for Democrats in those urban areas. And in order to ensure some sort of Republican representation, for instance, I know people were talking about the district HD 47 in Travis County with Vicki Goodwin. We have some limitations in the state constitution with regard to, you have to draw districts within counties. And so it's very difficult on the state legislative level to put a Republican district in some counties, just simply because the concentration of Democrats that live in those counties. And so those are some concepts you need to be aware of when you think about congressional redistricting. However, you don't have those limitations. And so I know a lot of rural people would not want to have an urban part of their district because they think of themselves as a rural district. But the reality of the situation is you guys are over concentrating the Republican vote in the Panhandle and in West Texas and in East Texas, where the Republicans generally dominate, and not giving the opportunity to spread that wealth around so that we have the ability for some people in some of these urban counties to have a Republican member of Congress. So think of those concepts when you're thinking about making your testimony to these committees, is that if you continue to have rural Republican districts and urban Democratic districts, you're locking out a lot of people who might be Republican in places like Travis County or Williamson County.
Tony Ann, this is Steve. If I could just add really quickly, because
Sure,
Eric raised an alarming point. And this is mainly for you SREC members and county chairs. If Eric is right and the primaries are delayed to the spring, May, or somewhere around there in June, remember the state party will have to completely on the fly redo its way that it picks its delegate selection and organizes for the state convention. Because if you have a state convention in June and you have a primary, I'm picking a date, May 15th. Normally you pick your delegates to the convention through a process through precinct chairs and district conventions that start just a couple of weeks after the primary. Well, how are you going to do that if your primary is May 21st and your convention's June 10th or whatever? You have to, amend your rules and then have a process in place. So party leadership needs to start thinking about that now. And that's a sounding of the alarm by Eric there. So I hope everybody heard that alarm.
Steve, I remember in 2010, I was a county chair at that time. And that was when we allowed the counties to combine their precinct and their county or senatorial district. And that's how that all developed out, which is a great option. It gives people an option to do that. So we should be aware. Look at what happened to us last year when we had to deal, not because the primary was delayed, but because of the pandemic. So we need these emergency type of policies in place. So good point, both of you. And Eric, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, all of this is just so crucial in having everything that you guys have shared with us today. And so, like I say, we're going to have to do redistricting one of the meetings. I know we're probably going to have a special session is what we're going to have to look at for redistricting because of the delay of the numbers. Would you agree with that, Eric and Donna and Steve?
Oh, definitely. I mean, if the data doesn't get here till October, the governor will have to call a special session in order to deal with these issues, or potentially, unfortunately, multiple special sessions, because a lot of times these things don't happen in 30 days, right?
Yeah. Right.
And one thing that I would suggest for a session that y'all talk about earlier rather than later is some legislation that has been filed, and maybe you have someone from Texans for Lawsuit Reform, or I know they're pushing this, is there's going to be a bill or actually a bill has been filed in the Senate, and I think there's going to be one filed in the House. It's going to be considered this regular session, dealing with the reapportionment of our appellate court districts. As some of you probably have realized, our courts of appeals that are based largely on our urban areas again are not, there is no ability for Republicans to get elected to those districts at all. Travis County, the Third Court of Appeals, the Fourth Court of Appeals, the First and 14th in Houston, the Fifth Court of Appeals in Dallas. All of those are now, it's mathematically impossible for any Republican representation on those courts of appeals. 90% of the cases that are heard don't make it to the Texas Supreme Court. And so most of your appeals end at these courts of appeals. And so the law is being written by 100% Democratic panels. And so that doesn't accurately reflect the Republican majority in this state. And so there's going to be some hearings probably coming up in the redistricting committees in both the House and the Senate, dealing, and Tom Nobis put that in the chat. It's Senate Bill 11 in the Senate, and looks like it has been filed House Bill 339 in the House, that are going to deal with trying to reflect some of the redistribution of those caseload. We have an overabundance of cases in certain districts that cause cases to be shifted to places that the people had no representation in voting on those issues. I tried an election contest in, and this was almost a decade ago. This is nothing new. It's been going on for a while. We've had a need to do this for quite some time. Tried an election contest in Seguin back a decade ago. The appeal went to the Houston Court of Appeals, even though it's in the San Antonio Court of Appeals district, because the San Antonio Court of Appeals was too overloaded in their cases. And so I tried another one up in the Panhandle that ended up going to the El Paso Court of Appeals. It really is not how the system was designed in our Constitution, where the people have some, or the judges have some accountability to the people who are dealing with the cases that they're deciding. And so this is an important topic. I think you guys need to be prepared to testify on, and especially due to on this issue of load balancing, where the Supreme Court is having to take these cases and send them to far-flung jurisdictions where the people who are having to deal with these decisions have no voice in the election of their judges. So
Well, that is, it's funny, Eric, we were thinking we were going to go one direction for next week. We didn't have a topic picked out yet, and it's kind of nice to have being able to be fluid. I think this just might be what our topic will be about next week. So maybe we'll talk offline. And Eric, I consider a good friend also. So many of you I know very well. And Tom Novus, thank you for the information you're putting on there. Very crucial. We appreciate all that you do too.
Uh-oh. I think Tony Ann just froze up.
uh-oh.
She'll be back short. There you are.
Am I back?
You're
And I would
back.
Yes.
I haven't talked to her, but I would suggest seeing if Joan Huffman might be willing to come and give your talk next week. I know that I'm chair for the CLE committee for the State Bar's Legislative Campaign Law section. And we had a discussion at our council meeting yesterday that she gave a talk to the appellate judges across the state on this very topic a couple of weeks ago. And I'm going to be reaching out to her to give a CLE to the lawyers about this, but it might be good, Tony, and if you have a good relationship with Joan Huffman, which I know you do, that you might reach out to her and see if she can come talk to you.
Am I still frozen?
No,
No.
you're
Oh,
good.
you're live.
Oh, now you're frozen.
Ah.
Well, Bisa, if she didn't hear what I was saying, if you could call her and
I
tell
could
her.
Yeah.
hear
Yes.
you.
She hears you. You're back.
Yeah, so I could hear you and I will talk to you offline. Let's move on to our questions. I know we got a lot in there, Karen. I didn't see Mary this week, so somebody's going to need to copy the chat for us so that we can get that posted. So what I want us to do is, because we're coming down, we got 1 minute actually.
Mhm.
And am I frozen again? Bisa.
No.
Bisa, take over on, so if I keep on going in and out, take over the last part, except one thing. I'm gonna try to get this in. I see Denise, I see that Denise Rivers is on this call. Yeah, can you unmute for 1 second? I want you to share what you did yesterday in San Angelo at the Republican Women's, and what you did about the address and how you were collecting information. Could you share real quick on your action item?
There's a group of us here in Llano County that we have organized the process to get people engaged to start calling, writing their elected officials, so that we can hold those officials accountable for doing what we elected them to do and to act like Republicans. So yesterday we sent, and everywhere I go, I send around a list of people to sign up for their name, their email address, and their text, so that we can contact them when bills come up and we need them to act immediately on those situations.
So thank you. And she is also now the new county chair for Llano County. So now we're going to move on. I'm going to share another screen with you. This is going to be your homework. So Karen, I want you to read the questions, and I've shared them, I put them up now. And what Chairman Click has said, that if you end up sending this in, the answers into the Texas Elections Reform at gmail.com, that we will determine who is going to get a prize from Chairman Click. So go ahead, Karen.
Question 1. What time and day will the election committee meet the week of March 1st? Question 2, or do you want me to wait?
No, no, you could go ahead.
When will the full House gavel in the week of March 1st? How many bills have been filed with the words elector and ballot? How many people are running for school board in our school district? Send your answers to texaselectionsreform@gmail.com.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can copy that and get that into our chat. I'm going to try. I don't know if I can figure out how to get in here. Chat, where's chat? Oh, here it is. Let's see if I can. Yeah, I'm not getting this in here. So we're going to have to share this with you. We'll get this out for all of you and we'll send it out to everyone. But it's supposed to be your school district, is what it is. To get to know what your school district, and if your school district isn't having an election, put 0, but explain why you have 0, okay? And then we can look at that. So we have, it was great participation today, and that we ended up, so much information was shared. And I thank you, Bisa, for your presentation, Chairman Click, to Steve, and to Eric, Tom, everybody that has shared this information. It's crucial. And so the other thing I would like you to do is your homework, as I mentioned earlier, is a resolution. Get that get your groups to do the resolution, and then go to send to your elected officials. Even if they're Democrats, send it to them, let them know what you're doing and what you feel. I think that we'll probably, if we can, we're going to try to do the redistricting on the courts, as Eric talked about. I will be chatting with him and getting more information. And then the other thing is that Heidi shared from Lost Pines Republican Women. They're having a training this weekend on how to communicate for testifying. And Heidi, I'm going to ask you to give us an explanation, point by point, what you're doing, so that we can share that also. I'll put that in my email so people know that that's an idea, that you have a training on how to do this and to help people get past that fear. So ladies and gentlemen, it's almost 5 after. I want to thank all of you for being here. I look forward to seeing you next week. If you have any questions or comments, please go to texaselectionsreform@gmail.com. Questions, comments, ideas, share your best practices. We want to hear from you, but don't forget to answer these questions that we just put up there for your homework. Thank you for attending, all of you. Bye.
Hi, Tony Ann.
Thank you. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you for visiting San Angelo.
Oh, it was fun.
Thank you from South Padre area.
Thank you.
Thank you from North Texas.
Yay, North Texas. All of you.
Thank you from Waco, Texas.